It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show where we take the hard work of cord killers, where we figured out how to watch stuff, and we bring it over here where we've watched stuff, and we talk about the stuff we watched. This week, we're going to talk about Hannibal. Oh wait, shoot. This is something I forgot to check. That Bryce always does, and I forgot to check it. So we're gonna have to do a retake on that. No, it's the numbers, the episode numbers.
There it is. Oh my goodness. Okay. I think Bryce just did that.
Yep, it is 105,
Bryce, that was so
106,
sweet of you. Oh, you just melted my heart. This is so sweet.
Okay. I'm going to pick it up again. Here we go. 3, 2. It's Spoilerin time, folks. This is the show where we take the hard work of our other show, Cord Killers, where we figure out how to watch stuff. Then we watch it, and we come over here and talk about it. This week, we will talk about episode 7 of season 2 of Hannibal, Invincible, season 1, episode 6, and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 5 of season 1. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Yeah. More importantly, we have Naim Siddiqui. Oh, wait. Naim.
Yep.
One syllable. Naim like dime, right?
Naim like dime.
Nailed
or Naim like L'chaim if you want to.
Wait, that's 2 syllables. Why would I do that? Wait, okay, here's the important thing. Which one are we starting with first, Tom?
We will talk about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is episode Truth, episode 5 of the season, in which we find out that they're I don't know, what do we find out in this one, Brian?
We found out
Walker builds a new shield.
Actually,
that's the ending. Walker is going to build his own shield from scrap metal that's not made out of vibranium.
I'll tell you what frustrates me is when they don't do a mid-credit scene until one time they suddenly do a mid-credit scene. It's like, please, just keep it consistent or don't. You don't need to do it both ways.
This is the first I've heard about this. Please describe this scene.
See, that's the problem. If you don't have a mid-credit scene in every other episode and suddenly have a mid-credit scene in episode 5, people aren't going to watch it. In the mid-credit scene, John Walker builds his own Captain America shield. So that he can go and continue to Captain America around the place.
Which is weird because I believe in the comic books, it's the real Captain America that says, forget America, and he goes to Stark and has Stark build, he's like, I'm just the captain.
And he becomes Nomad.
Yeah.
Or maybe the captain, I remember. He has lots of identities.
Yeah,
well, because John Walker also becomes US agent, but then in the comics he's introduced as Super Patriot. So it's, obviously they take their own liberties with the things, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus, how about that?
Okay. So
the Contessa, yeah.
There's a bit to unpack here. First of all, number one, everybody who wrote in, very, very clearly, there's a disconnect that there's something about this series that is connecting with people in a way that is not connecting with me. We got a couple of emails of accusing Tom and I of being overly privileged and oh, I'm sorry. Did the fact that you already saw this in The Wire, is that boring to you and all that stuff? However this story connects with anybody watching it is nothing short of wonderful. But while this episode was quite good, it's still not really connecting with me.
I've been bending over backwards in all of our Spoilerin time to point out that if you aren't enjoying a show, that is not wrong or right. It is your experience, and that this show is very popular with a lot of people who love it, and we just didn't happen to be the people who had exactly those same perspectives. So I don't ever want someone to feel bad because they enjoyed something that I didn't. I also wasn't hating this either. I actually liked the second episode fairly well, and I really second half of this episode, maybe even the last 2/3. Like basically from the time that Sam ends up with the boat and all the stuff around fixing the boat and bringing all the folks together for the boat. I love that. I thought that was really fun. Really enjoyed that. Good storytelling there.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but having been somebody who has not seen any of it, What are the reasons they're saying that you don't like it and it's a criticism of you as a person?
Um, uh, 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 ooh, wow, that's a
I
tough
think
way to put
so
that.
the show tries to have elements of, you know, why is it so difficult for example for a black man to take the shield, and for him to be Captain America, and that's an experience that that neither Tom or Brian, you know, is able to share. And but I don't think I don't think that should affect the enjoyment of watching it. You know, there's a lot of that stuff in other content, such as The Wire or Black Panther, that you guys have watched and enjoyed. You know, it's not necessarily a thing that's. I think the storytelling has issues too. That, like, you know, it sort of says these things, but it shies away from showing them because it still wants to be Marvel. So like it wants to talk about the difficulties faced by Black people in America without really doing the legwork
Well,
of, you know,
and
making you feel uncomfortable.
there's absolutely no way to divorce our experience of watching this show from the fact that we already spent years, multiple years watching The Wire, learning about Baltimore, learning about the story that they were telling there. Um, and I understand that Disney is under no obligation to be as edgy as HBO was in the early aughts or any of those things. I also would never pretend that Tom and I are seeing this from the perspective of old white men. We're old white men. Hey, Tom, we're old white men. I'm sorry.
Sure are.
We can't not see things through this lens. And it's also not Disney's job to be edgy in a way that titillates us, like The Shield or Justified or The Wire or any of the other things. It's not, uh, there's no obligation ever. However, I know that me, the human being, Brian Brushwood, my family gathered around. They were the ones that pushed me to all gather to watch every single episode of WandaVision. And they tried for the first few episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it just didn't like. And now I don't. Nobody asked me to watch this with them. That is me and my family's experience, and in the context of things we have already seen before. I am absolutely certain that someone somewhere this is deeply connecting with, and I don't want to take any of that away from them.
I have friends who are absolutely loving this show, who like that's a lot more straightforward than WandaVision. That they don't have to like sit and think about theories and whatnot. And then I have other friends
It's not a
who
puzzle.
are, yeah, it's not a puzzle. But I have other friends who are frustrated about the writing. You know, one of the emails was talking about how they really like the action and that it feels like a Mission Impossible to them. And also, as a fan of Mission Impossible, I didn't grab the Blu-rays, but they are on my shelf. You know, I don't really feel that. I feel like it's trying to do that, but like that first action sequence in the first episode where everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's so good! You haven't really seen anything like this," felt like a QuickTime event to me.
I
Like
agree.
it felt like
Well, and this is I won't say who, but somebody in the chat is pointing out that it's possible for a show to be about something important and good, but and action oriented, and also not have very good action sequences. And I would say
yeah.
that that's probably the closest to how I'm feeling, because like
And some of them I've enjoyed, and some of them I haven't as much. And I like Henry Jackman's score a lot. I like that they brought him back from the Captain America movies. But yeah, like I also, like Tom said, I really like the boat fixing stuff. And like, you know, the community getting together and coming together, and then also even, you know, Bucky coming and like being like, hey, I want to help as well, and some more sort of buddy stuff with that. And also, you know, Bucky helping Sam figure out how to fight with the shield, was all, I think, really good, interesting stuff.
that
I think
that was a pretty good like dad teenager teaching sequence.
Yeah,
Like,
it felt fun.
hey, man, we're just throwing the ball back and forth, but really what we're doing is talking,
Yeah.
it's just not connecting with me. That's the most authentically pure, honest way I can express it.
I just want to take a moment and emphasize that if somebody's going to send a criticism of me, please be sure to criticize what I have said, because this happens to me on all the shows I'm on. I often get lumped in with what other people have said, and same goes for Brian. Don't criticize Brian for anything that
Oh, no,
that
no, no.
I
Just
have said.
straight up, just throw everything at me. It's fine. Consider me the shield, the vibranium, the
And especially don't
Brianium.
criticize John for things that Bryce has said. They're two very different people.
I put all of my worst moments on Brian's head.
So, having said all of that, Tom, how are you feeling about the show?
Where I was going to go with that was I think that the Isaiah Bradley subplot has been very intriguing, and I wish they had done more with it. I think they did more with it in this episode, and I really enjoyed that as well. My criticisms of the show have been about the action sequences and the
Yes.
banter and the buddy cop part of it, and those parts of it I feel like are more enjoyable to folks who like that kind of thing more and are like, yeah, I don't care if it's not that great. I always enjoy it. That's me with Wuxia. Anytime there's a martial arts scene, the rest of the show can be pretty crappy. Even the martial arts might not even be the best, and I'll enjoy it. So I get that, and I've said that before on the show. Like that is the thing that I think is lacking for me. And the rest of the show, I've enjoyed the second episode quite a bit. I enjoyed the last 2/3 of this one quite a bit. I would like to read Mark's email because I think it's just a good resource. Mark wrote, I haven't heard you guys talking much about the themes of systemic racism and critique of the U.S. military in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. A couple people I follow on TikTok did some very good analysis of these themes. JS Tubes, that's with 2 O's, and straw_hat_goofy. And Mark said, your enjoyment of the show may be enriched by scrolling through their feeds and checking out their analysis. It did for me because I was pretty mad about the show until the themes were pointed out to me. So if that is one of the reasons where you're not enjoying the show as much because you might think I'm missing those themes, those are great resources, Mark. Thank you for pointing those out.
I will say I will second that. I follow both Jay Stoobs and Straw Hat Goofy on TikTok, and I watch their TikToks. I enjoy their TikToks very much. Still a little mad on the show. I think I like the themes. I like what it's trying to do, but like, again, not to put words in your mouth, but like you kind of said, it's not the best execution of those things. And that's the issue. If I like that it's trying to do these things, but you don't necessarily get points just for trying. In fact, like you said, with the action and the buddy cop stuff, I love action and buddy cop stuff. I wish the action and buddy cop stuff was better. And I thought the buddy cop stuff especially was better in this episode. Which is
Yes,
something that I enjoy.
I 100% like to be honest, once they gave up the I don't know, the fake resistance between the two of them, it got a lot better for me anyway.
I think the issue with that is that they pace the buddy cop stuff like it's a 5-hour movie or a 6-hour movie instead of pacing it like it's a TV show, where if you're watching a buddy cop TV show, the resistance can only kind of be in the first 2 episodes, and then you kind of have to drop it. But they didn't really do that till episode 5, and so it's like, okay, well, thank you for finally doing it, but there's only an episode left, and now we're finally getting to that. So,
From what I understand, number one, this was supposed to come out before WandaVision. Number
Yes.
2, this has been severely recut and reshot, and it was because of the global pandemic.
yeah, there was a subplot with a virus potentially that they cut out of the show because there is now a actual virus. So I can understand, maybe it's possible that, for example, the Flag Smasher stuff was really edited down in a lot of ways because that was part of their thing. The thing is, though, like, maybe you can handicap it a little bit for that, but if I'm going back and watching in 4 years when doing an MCU rewatch for Avengers 6, I'm not necessarily going to be thinking about, oh, right, this was the one that was affected by COVID and they had to rewrite things because they had to reshoot things. But also, yes, this was supposed to come after Black Widow and before WandaVision instead of after WandaVision and before Black Widow. And also, speaking of, I mentioned Julia Louis-Dreyfus earlier. Apparently, she was also supposed to be in Black Widow. Potentially, still is in Black Widow.
Right. From what I hear, there are plans for her to show up a lot.
Yeah, theoretically, again, pure speculation, but I figure she's probably putting together a version of like the Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers with like, we have a Dark Cap and Yelena Belova is going to be in Black Widow, so it makes sense to recruit her as Dark Black Widow. So that kind of thing. She's the sort of the Nick Fury of the Thunderbolts.
It's rare that we have a moment like this where it's like, I feel like a bad person for not enjoying it more, but I
don't think you should. I don't think you should feel bad for not enjoying it any more than anyone else should feel bad that we didn't like an episode and they did. Right? I'm beating that hammer all the time of like, it's not about good or bad. It's about did you like this part of the plot? And in fact, I'm even less interested in talking all the time about whether I liked something or enjoyed it or didn't. It's more about like, where is this story going and what's going to happen next? That's my favorite thing to talk about. And if you're like, yeah, I suddenly found myself not caring where the story went next, well, then that's fine. That's your own personal opinion, and everyone should be okay with you having that opinion. I think there are other things that maybe because we spend so much time talking about, oh, I didn't like this or I didn't like that get lost in the shuffle, like the representation of Sam Wilson saying like, yeah, I can carry the shield, but no one is going to consider me Captain America. And the metaphor that's talking about it, the Black experience, we kind of skated that because we spent so much other time talking about the buddy cop and all of that thing. I think people have to remember we're not doing a comprehensive critique of every episode. We're just kind of shooting from the hip here.
Yeah, I mean, all we try to do is say how we feel, and I feel like, I'm just gonna say it, feel like the action sequences on this show are overwrought. I feel like the buddy cop sequences are not very fun or engaging or witty. I feel like I don't like this show very much, Tom.
Brian,
and that's fine. You don't have to.
Clarification.
Like, there's no law that says you have to enjoy it. You can learn from the email that Mark sent us.
Yes.
You can acknowledge like, oh, there's themes in here that are important, and I think it's a great way to tell that part of the story without saying, and so I guess I have to like the action sequences that I think are overwrought. I mean, if you think they're overwrought, that's what you think.
Define overwrought.
I can't. I'll have to sit with it.
Or give a synonym. Ridiculous.
No. So the buddy cop stuff at times is quite good, but those are very rare times. Most of the time, like, you could tell it's like, if you're running a timer, it's like, well, it's been 30 seconds and we needed 30 seconds of two people who aren't getting along, but secretly agree with each other, and they do it in a funny way. It's like, well, that was neither funny, nor do I believe that they get along or disagree with each other. Like you can fail at a very simple task, and I feel like this show has failed many times at many storytelling tasks.
I will say, yeah, I in a similar way feel kind of that way about John Walker and sort of where they've gone with his character.
Fascinating. Like, as far as an idea of a genuine patriot, somebody who is willing to do anything for his country and is maybe just a little bit willing to go along with whatever America tells him to do.
Yeah.
Somebody who is loyal, somebody who is loyal to the point of doing awful things. They're not doing a great job of representing that moral dilemma to me.
That's I really felt like that way again until this episode a little bit, because he has the line where he says, like, I did everything for this country, whatever you asked me to, blah 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 blah. I don't remember exactly the line, but you can look it up.
No, that's literally the line. He says,
yeah,
blah
I
blah
remember
blah blah.
I did exactly what you wanted me to do, blah blah blah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like that really, and then for Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Contessa to swoop in right at that moment. I will be interested to see what they do going forward. But I read an article early on about how they were concerned about the sidekickization. I don't think that's the exact word they use, but of Battlestar Lamar Wilson. No, is it Wilson?
Yeah.
Or is Lamar Wilson?
Or Lamar.
Lamar. Anyway,
I think that was his last name. But
Hoskins,
Lamar Wilson is our
Lamar
friend
Wilson
who shows up on the show.
Yes.
But
friend of the show, Lamar Wilson.
As a matter of fact, hold
Hoskins.
on, pause everything. I just want to believe it's Lamar Wilson from now on, because that'd be such a better show. If Lamar Wilson was his friend, it would be amazing.
Listen, I'm on Cord Killers. I'm thinking Lamar Wilson.
Yes.
But Lamar Hoskins, and they kind of fridge the character and kill him in order for John Walker to get mad, and that's not great. I don't think
it's not great storytelling. That's what it boils down to. Great ideas, great environment, great world, great bones, great everything. Poor storytelling, and I'm sorry. The action sequences aren't great.
To kill, first of all, kill the black guy who also is the sidekick, who also is the best friend, who also is the moral compass. Like, it's kind of weak. And also then to get rid of that character, which they didn't need to do.
The only tweak I would say is, I wouldn't say it is weak. I would say wasn't for me, did not connect.
Sure. Cliche is the word I used, and I don't think it's hard to argue that it's not a cliche.
All right, that is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 5, season 1. Let's talk about Invincible, season 1, episode 6. You look kind of dead. This is where we see Mark recover. We see him try to patch things up. And we see him head to a weekend college getaway, where he then has to get in a big fight.
Naim, had you watched, were you keeping up week after week on this, or?
I watched every episode of Invincible last night.
Okay, great. That means you are the only person I trust. I don't trust John, who's not seen any of these. I don't trust Tom, who watched them in the same order I did, but I do trust you, who binged it, which means you get the artificial boost of binging a thing. I want to say about this one episode that there's no such thing as a bad episode of Invincible.
That means he didn't like it.
But there does have to be...
He said the same thing the last time I was on when he talked about WandaVision.
There does have to be, mathematically, a least good episode.
I thought this episode was not good.
Yes!
Not
I did it! I did it! Tom, it works! It's the best rhetorical device.
No, I know. Well, again, you did the same thing when I was on last time, so I caught it. But I was not. I thought, first of all, the relationship drama just feels so manufactured. Yes, superhero, blah blah blah, whatever. His excuse was perfectly reasonable. I went to go get help. And as soon as he says that, you hear police sirens in the background. That's a perfectly reasonable explanation. Also, it's not like Amber and Rick were doing anything. They were just sort of standing there. So like, why didn't you also just stand there mouth agape with us? Like, what are you talking about? There's nothing there. I mentioned, I think, in the main show that I read the Invincible comics, not all of them, but a good chunk of them. It's been like 10 years. I'm so much less interested in this show in the Mark story than I am in the story surrounding Omni-Man and what he did. So this was a very Mark heavy episode. I know the show is called Invincible and it should be about Invincible. but the parts with him are a lot less interesting. Although, again, like the previous episode, more interesting. He's trying to do his own thing. This was just like, hey, let's do a filler episode where we go to a college visit, and then also there's a bad guy who's Ezra Miller, and it's like, okay, cool, I guess. Yeah, fine.
Tom?
I didn't I wasn't enthralled by this episode, but I thought it had good beats. I didn't mind the relationship stuff. I think it's pretty strong. I think it's all understandable. I think Amber not being happy with Mark is built on consistent disappointments. Yes, it is a little bit unreasonable to be like, why did you move when we stood there? But it's also her holding him to a little bit a higher standard. Like she's told him he's on thin ice. And where I think a lot of people may differ is you want him to tell her. And I'm sitting there going, just tell her, just say, here's the real truth. And his friend discovers the real truth. And you're like, maybe the friend will slip up and let her know what's going on. But at this point, it's whether you like that relationship drama being as prominent in the story or not. It is very prominent in this episode. And if you're not as interested in the relationship drama, then you're not going to like this episode as much. There's some other good stuff happening around the corners here too, like Eve ditching her parents and going to say, you know what, I'm going to use my superhero powers for humanitarian things. Right. There's also the Mahler twins secretly trying to clone the immortal. Yeah. So there's a lot of seeds being planted in this episode as well.
Yeah, the seeds I definitely liked a whole lot more than the meat, which like in the I agree that he could just tell her, but also like they're 17 and they've been dating for 3 months. Like, should he really tell her his secret? Because as Eve said in a previous episode, like once you tell her, that's the ball game. So do you?
But is that why he's not telling her?
I mean. That's why I wouldn't, like, you don't know if this is if this is a person you're going to be with for the rest of your life, or if you're just going to have an ex out there somewhere who knows that you're a superhero.
I don't think he's making that decision that rationally. I think he's not telling her because he thinks he's not supposed to.
Maybe.
I think if it was as rational as like, I don't know if she should know because she might not be the one, I think he would tell her if that's all it was.
I also don't think Amber is the end game for the relationship goal of the character. Like he's clearly going to end up with Eve anyway, or another superhero character that's introduced later. But I don't think that so it just feels like, okay, we're going to continue. It feels a little overwrought to me, in fact.
I will say that I think both of you guys nailed it insofar as the best parts, like we'll eventually find out why this episode was the way it was, but the meat that was presented is not the hero of the story. I think that it's the seasonings on the side that are going to eventually yield incredible things in the next or episode after that, or whatever. To the big
fight between Invincible and Omni-Man that's inevitably coming.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for the record, overwrought is a state of nervous excitement or anxiety.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, and it makes me anxious. There we go. That's
all right. That's Invincible. You Look Kind of Dead, episode 6, season 1. Let's talk about Hannibal, episode 7 of season 2, Yakimono, where Miriam Lass causes all kinds of trouble by straight out saying Hannibal is not the Chesapeake Ripper, and not only straight out identifying Dr. Chilton as the Chesapeake Ripper, but then shooting him.
Okay, so what I love is like the real problem she's causing is a little thing I like to call being alive. Like it would be like that's what is breaking everything. By the way, Naeem, are you following along with us on this one, or have you already seen it? Nope, he's silenced.
I had my mic muted because I wasn't talking. I have not seen Hannibal, and I am not following along, so.
Totally fine. Dude, I'm increasingly convinced that as obvious as everything was from like frame 1 of this episode, I minded not 1 second of it. I loved this episode. It was great.
I am enthralled by these plot twists. I mean, you're absolutely right that Miriam Lass being alive is throwing everything out of whack, but also this is his design that she's alive, right? Like it's part of the plan. And what blew me away even more was Will Graham reacting to this by saying, you know what I need to do now is go back into therapy with Hannibal, because if I run, he'll chase me. But if I visit him, then at least I can be closer to understanding what he's going to do next.
So
it's so good.
It doesn't matter if I, as a human being, am right or wrong when I'm watching a show, but I definitely spent all of this show thinking, oh my God, it's chess. It's nothing but chess. It's superhumans with superpowers who have chess powers, and they're playing chess. And then that last 3 minutes where he walks in and he sits down and he says, let's do therapy. I'm like, chess! It's murder chess. It's
Right.
This is amazing.
Yeah. They're like, we've been playing chess by mail this whole time. Let's just sit down in the same room,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
it's so good, right?
Yeah. No, I was blown away by that because I'm like, well, what's Will going to do? Like, okay, so he's off the hook and he comes back, and Hannibal's move of, I'm going to turn your girlfriend against you, just as a safety net, has entirely worked. And Will has
Well,
realized that.
and on top of that, use her as an alibi to make absolutely certain that
He
that's
was with
part of my
me.
superpower stuff. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed how they played Will talking to her, where it wasn't him being wounded or emotionally upset. It was him immediately recognizing what was going on and attempting to see if he could nudge her. Like, no, 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 you're in danger. Like, it wasn't like, I'm so hurt that Hannibal has turned you against me. It was like, oh crap, you're gonna die. And I need to kind of help see if I can get you out of that.
And likewise, how unhurt he was when Jack lets him free and is just like, yeah, no, I figured, okay, so that's where
Yeah.
we're at.
I'm not sure why you let Alana. Alana's the woman's name I couldn't remember just now. I don't understand why you let her question Chilton though. I feel like once you know she's in a relationship with Hannibal, like she probably shouldn't be involved in this case anymore.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't mind. Okay. Part of me wants to start screaming, this is all very, very silly. But aesthetically, from a pacing perspective, like I'm just all in. I can't explain why. Like I'm just like,
It's all
yes,
all
I
stories
believe
are
all of
silly
it.
because none of it's real, right? Every TV show is silly because it's all make believe. But you don't think it's silly if they convince you, if you're enjoying it, if you're caught up in the game, and that's what Hannibal's doing, I think.
Yeah. So good. I mean, I wish I had more to offer other than the single syllable word good. It's
also,
good.
Maybe I'm wrong here, but sometimes you can be totally self-aware that a show is being silly, and the reason you're on board isn't because, oh no, I totally believe this, but they earned it.
Well, and that's one of the things I try
Yeah.
to explain to my kids is that there's a lyricism and a beat and a pacing and a rhythm to good music. And a music can be a dumb subject about a dumb song with an obvious ending, but that will not stop you from being caught up completely in the thing. Like this is poetry. It is rhythm. It is music, and I love it for its silly visuals, for its over the top everything. And that's hard to get me on board with. But the same thing I love about Hannibal seems to be the same things that I feel like Falcon and the Winter Soldier is not managing to pull off, and I feel bad saying that out loud.
All right. Any other thoughts on Yakimono, episode 7, season 2, Hannibal?
No, outside of it is fun to see Will just 100% confident. This is a Will we've never seen before. This is a Will who has the courage of his convictions, who knows exactly who the bad guy is, who knows exactly, if not the precise methods, or has the connective memories that string everything together, knows what his mission is. And I'm glad, happy to see him out of jail, happy to see him ready to go to war. And we've never seen that before.
Would you call him an Iron Will?
No, I would not, because that would be silly.
Yeah, that would be really silly. Can't wait to find out how he hypnotized Miriam Lass. That's just one of the tiny things that I'm looking forward to being revealed. That is Hannibal, season 2, episode 7. Before we get out of here, once again, thanks to Nime for joining us. I know that you're probably wanting to watch the Arenado at bat right now, but pull your eyes away just a second and let us know where people can find more of you online.
It's 11-2. We're fine. You can find me on www.iamkuhan.com. I'm at Kuhan on Twitter. And as I said on the main show, twitch.tv/speakeasypubquiz. We do a great quiz every Thursday night at 9:30. And if we don't do a quiz, which we didn't last week, we still do a nice fun stream that hopefully is good for people. I think people enjoyed. We played Jackbox, and then I played some guitar, and people seemed to like it.
Very nice. Go check it out, folks. And don't forget, you can get these episodes a little earlier on our Patreon, patreon.com/cordkillers. We'll spoil you again next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.